Conor McGregor's return as it pertains to USADA. Now, every time I hear somebody talk on this, I chalk it up instantly to fast talk. What I mean by that is, hey, I'm doing an interview, somebody asked me a question, right? I know something about Conor. I'm somehow attached to Conor. I might be a trainer, I might be a manager, I might be a promoter, I'm something like that. I get asked I might be Conor myself. I get asked some questions. Hey, you gonna return this year? Hey, I might. My point being, I don't know when I'm gonna return. Yeah, it might be tomorrow, it might be later this year. I might. That's what I chalk it up to. I don't ever chalk it up to, hey, this math doesn't work. USADA's been very clear. You got to do 6 months, okay? So then when he says, I might return this year, you go, but there's not 6 months left in the year. Therefore, you plan to take on USADA's interpretation of the contract versus somebody else's interpretation of the contract. We're going to have this fight, yes? And every single time I hear it, I dismiss it to fast talk. Hey, something came at me quick. I try to handle it quick. Until right now, when I heard a lawyer speak on it. And I heard a lawyer say he might return this year. Because if I get out of calendar, I go to the very last day of this year, which, by the way, isn't booked for an event, but I could go to the very last day of this year, and I do not have 181 days left. And I'm interested in that. I am personally interested in that. If you meet an expert on the rules of USADA, you've met a liar, and that includes if they work for USADA. If you sit down with somebody, including a lawyer, that thinks they've got a good grasp on this thing, and they explain to you what you need to do, I am then going to say, okay, great. What do you do if you're returning? So, well, Chael, I just told you what happens if you're going to enter USADA. No, the rules are completely different if you've already been in and you left and you're returning. Did you even know that? No, I didn't know that. I didn't think you did. So it's a really interesting spot. I mean, it's the fight that I want to happen. It's the one I've been waiting for. And now that we've got lawyers on Conor's side saying, yes, we could absolutely return this year. I don't predict that we will. There's dates. There's pay-per-view dates. I don't think the calendar lines up. But we absolutely could. Sounds as though they have a different interpretation. And it is a very peculiar spot, right? I mean, I just bring these things to you guys because everybody talks about it, but nobody says the rules. Like, I've seen guys that think they've done a level of research and put out a quote about if you return, you've got to do 6 months. Like, they put out that one subsection, but that's not how those things work. That's not how those things work at all. I mean, I've seen people do that with every book and piece of paperwork that there is. Got this great big book. Here, let me show you this one line over here. Talks about separating the bad sheep from the herd. And therefore, we don't ever talk to little Johnny anymore. He spends Christmas by himself. Like, I've heard all of these things if you want to take one little subsection. That's not how it works. And I think that you might be interested in how it does work. Let me just give you an example, guys. I'm in Jackson Hole. I got a show coming up on Saturday. I have multiple millions of dollars in TV contracts, and I owe those TV networks X amount of time. A level of sophistication of this business you're never going to understand. I'm not going to take the time to explain to you, but I need the time, and I just lost this fight. I don't have time to get anybody else out here. I don't have anybody currently under contract that will agree to do this. Whether they can't make weight or they haven't studied, they haven't done training camp, I have to have the fight. By the way, there happens to be a local kid right here in Jackson Hole, and he'll do it. Pretty good little amateur fighter, good little record. We've actually had a rider for a little bit. We're going to give him the shot. Bell time's in 3 days. Weigh-ins are in 48 hours. Can you get him licensed and get it done? Yeah, we can get it done. Boom, he's in. That happens every week that you guys don't know about. That is a gross exaggeration, but that happens 4 times a year. It happens very often. So why can Conor not come back and do that same thing? Why? Why can it not be this is a short notice or we didn't have enough time? Why does it have to be 4 days short notice? We're here and it's a local guy. Why does it have to be any of that? Why can't he fly across the country? Why can't 4 days become 4 weeks? Why can't 4 weeks become 10 weeks? I mean, I'm just asking you these questions. And there's answers to them. By the way, there's answers to them. It is a completely separate set of subsection. If you're returning, if you've been in and left and you're returning, you fall into completely different rules than if you haven't been in at all. I'm sharing that with you because I know that you don't know that. There's lawyers that don't know that. It's why I want this fight to happen. Right? You got some real high and mighties that are willing to come down on some very lowlies. They've never explained the rules. Oh, and by the way, when they do come to the meeting and explain the rules, they're lying half the time. They're not wrong. See, wrong is one thing, right? You're open for interpretation. This is what nobody can tell you what's in a contract. That's just what it is. Nobody except a judge. But you can come out and you could do your best to say this is our understanding. You could even argue, hey, there's some precedents on this, and here's what the intent was, and here's what we're going to argue if we do get to this point. You could do a level good job. They don't always do that. Sometimes they will come out and straight up bluff. They'll tell you what something is to mean because it's what they want it to mean. It doesn't mean that. It's an interesting concept to a degree. It's the reason I want this fight to happen. I don't know that it will. And whether Conor returns in 23, which doesn't look like it, right? His own lawyer is saying it's going to be 24. Okay, great, it's 24. But if it's 24, it's 25. What difference does it make? What difference does it make? And what do you do with Chandler in the meantime? By the way, if you're Chael Sonnen and you see Conor's attorney come out and say, probably going to be 24. What do? Right? You have to operate and make your moves based on the information that you have. It's a very interesting spot. I don't know what the move's going to be. I don't know what the call's going to be. I don't know what promises or conversations are going on behind the scenes. But I know that particular camp is a very hard time keeping secrets because it's the camp that the world is most interested in. And therefore, I don't think they are keeping secrets. I think they're telling us the truth. We don't know when he's coming back. Okay, great. My guess is when Michael Chandler agreed to put his life on hold to fight you, you didn't tell him, we don't know when we're going to come back. My guess is that is a very different statement than what was said 5 months ago when Chandler stopped everything to do this. Let's see where it goes.